Imagine being just a kid in the comfort of your own home when suddenly, disaster strikes. An unexpected explosion, flames everywhere, and the only person who could save you runs away. What would you do? This is the shocking story of a young boy who had to face a terrifying kitchen explosion alone. Abandoned by those closest to him, he had to act fast or risk losing everything. But his struggle didn't end with the fire. It was only the beginning. Stay tuned, because this story is about to take a twist you won't believe. It was an ordinary day in a small, quiet village. The kitchen was bustling with the smell of food, and a young boy, no older than 10, was helping prepare a meal. He was alone in the kitchen for just a moment, but that moment would change his life forever. As the boy leaned over the stove, suddenly, without warning, boom! A massive explosion rocked the kitchen. Flames shot up, and the boy's clothes were engulfed in fire. The heat was unbearable, and panic set in. In a moment of pure desperation, the boy ran to the nearest person for help, his grandmother, who had been sitting nearby. Surely she would come to his aid, right? But what happened next was unthinkable. Instead of rushing to help him, the grandmother's fear took over. She turned and fled, running toward the front door, leaving the boy behind. She was more afraid of the fire spreading to her than of the boy's life. Left alone and terrified, the boy knew he had only seconds to save himself. Thinking quickly, he grabbed a bucket of water nearby and began dousing the flames on his body. It was a miracle. He managed to put out the flames, but the damage was done. His clothes were burned, his skin seared by the heat. He stood there, shaking, hurt, and completely alone. Just when the boy thought things couldn't get worse, another grandmother appeared from inside the house. Surely she would help. She walked over, examined the kitchen, the stove, and finally approached the boy. But instead of comforting him, she scolded him. Not a word about his injuries, no effort to take him to the hospital. She was more concerned about the stove than the boy who had narrowly escaped death. What kind of person could turn their back on a child in pain like that? The boy was left to fend for himself once again. The boy, still in shock and desperate for safety, ran out of the house. But the story doesn't end here. As if the pain of the fire wasn't enough, the second grandmother chased after him. She was furious, and as the boy ran for his life, she continued to hit him, yelling at him all the while. A young boy who had just fought for his life, now being punished as if it was all his fault. It's hard to imagine how someone could go through such an ordeal, especially a child. Left to fight the flames on his own, abandoned when he needed help the most, and even punished for an accident beyond his control. But this story isn't just about tragedy, it's about survival. This boy showed incredible strength in the face of overwhelming odds. And what about you? What would you have done? Would you have helped or run away like the grandmother did? If this story moved you, if it made you think twice about how we treat those in need, then please consider subscribing to this channel. We share real, powerful stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit, even in the most difficult moments. And remember, in times of crisis, heroes aren't always the ones who wear capes. Sometimes they're just kids who refuse to give up.